You know, over these last few weeks, we've been talking about this All In for Tomorrow initiative and talking about how we really believe that God's got some great things planned for us in the days to come. And that as a church, we can come together and do some really great things, far bigger than we could do ever on our own. And one of the things we've been talking about is how do we come together and make commitments towards this initiative. And we've talked about commitments card. You've received the commitment card in your All In for Tomorrow booklet. You've received them in the bulletin a couple Sundays. And we want to take a moment just to talk about filling out that commitment card. And while it might seem simple, we're going to walk you through some examples. And before we do that, maybe just start off by explaining and answering the question, why commitment cards? People have asked, why do we even need to do a commitment? Why do we need to fill out a commitment card? So what are a couple of reasons that we felt like it's important to fill out commitment cards?
Sure. So I want you to think about the commitment card as a way to communicate with the leadership of the church. It is our desire to not take on any long-term debt for these projects. And commitment cards allow leadership to plan and scale the projects as needed based on how the commitments come in. And they'll also help us as we're planning and starting projects to be able to do that in the most efficient and effective way possible.
So it's good from a planning standpoint. It communicates with leadership, and we need to know what commitments are so we can plan and move forward. The other reason I have found in my own life that a commitment card can be really helpful, just a commitment in general, is if I don't stop and pause and really examine an area of my life and to consider, what do I want to do different, nothing ever really changes. And that's true in my life from a giving standpoint too. If I don't stop and pause and say, okay, where do I want to be, and look at where I'm at, I probably don't take a step of change. And my wife and I, our goal has always been to increase our giving as we go through our years, but it doesn't just happen. You got to stop and consider and really set a goal, and then how are we going to get there? So I think from a personal standpoint, commitment's really helpful, really important, and I think in many ways we should all be doing that every year as we enter into a new year, considering what's the Lord called us to in that new year. Early on when we first started talking about this All In for Tomorrow initiative, we said that our number one goal, above raising money, above building buildings, was that it would be something that everybody, 100% of our church family, would be engaged in, that at whatever level that God would lead, that everybody would have a part. And so let's just give a couple examples of that. You know, where can people plug in? What might be true of one person or another as they go through the process of really seeking God and filling out a commitment card?
So as we look at these examples, this will help you to make sure you know how to complete a commitment card. As some of the leaders and staff have turned in early commitments, we've even seen our own people who walk through this process several times not quite complete the commitment card correctly. So we want to make sure that everyone feels equipped to fill out a commitment card. So let's talk first. Maybe you're a new believer or a local college student that just works at Culver's part-time to have some extra money, and you've never given to the church before. When you start at the top of your commitment card, you're going to fill out 0 as what you normally give in a year. And maybe you've decided that you're being called to increase your annual giving by $1,000. This is a lot for you. So you're going to write $1,000 on that next box. So 0 plus 1,000 is 1,000. You're going to multiply that times 2. Why? Because this is a two-year initiative.
Yep.
So $2,000. Now, we've heard from someone within the church that they plan to sell their gaming system and all the games that they have, and they're going to give that money to this All-In initiative.
I think all of our teens should do that.
Absolutely. As a parent of teens, I
idea.
agree 100%. So maybe that's just an example of a gift that you can make from stored resources. So say this young person is able to get $250 from their gaming system and games. They would write that as a gift from stored resources. And so their total commitment is the $2,000 plus $250 or $2,250. Of course, then they would fill out their name on the bottom. And then when you're ready to turn this in on Commitment Sunday, you would peel off the paper from the back of the sticker and seal it up to place it in the basket.
So let's say you're a young family. Maybe you've got a couple kids at home. Maybe you are committed to giving back to the Lord and making that a priority. Every time your paycheck comes in, that the first thing you do is to write a check back to the work the Lord's doing through your church, through Village Bible Church. And let's say that for you right now, if you look back at the last year, you look and you say, well, we've given $5,000. And that's what we've given over the last 12 months. So you'd put that in that first box. And let's say you were committed to say, we're going to increase that 60%. That's $3,000. And it's going to be a stretch. We think we're going to have to cut here and make changes here, but we think we can do it. And we're committed to doing that as a family. We've talked about it with our kids and what's it mean for them. And you'd add the $3,000 to the increased in annual generosity line. And you total that up and you end up with $8,000 a year multiplied by the 2 years. You'd be at $16,000 over the 2 years. Let's say this family really doesn't have any stored resources. They're pretty tight, and while generosity is a priority, they just don't have a lot they can cash in or a lot of savings. And so for them, zero in stored resources. And so you carry that through. Their commitment over the 2 years would be the $16,000 that they'd be committing to give back to the Lord through this All In for Tomorrow initiative.
Absolutely. Or maybe you look at what you gave last year and you were able to give $1,000 per month. So that would have been $12,000 for your annual giving. And you really feel like God is calling you to increase that significantly and you have the resources to do that. Then you feel like you're going to increase that $15,000 per year.
Wow.
So that total there would be 12 plus 15 or $27,000 times 2 years for the commitment is $54,000. Maybe you have appreciated stocks valued at about $10,000, or maybe it's just savings that you feel like you can make a sacrifice of right now. So $10,000 is what you feel like you should be giving from stored resources. So that total 2 year commitment for you is $64,000.
You know, the reality is these are just 3 examples, but they represent where a lot of people are at. And some people may not even be able to make that first step, and that's okay. Other people may be able to make a much bigger step than the third one. And the reality is it takes all of us for this to come together. And it's something that we can all be engaged in, all be involved with. And so this is for everybody. And really, over the next week, our request to you would be that you would really be taking time to pray and seeking God. What would He lead you to give? What's His desire for you from a commitment standpoint? Also, for those who are married, talk about this with your spouse. Certainly don't do this on your own. And I would say if you've got kids at home, engage them. I've done that with my daughters, and we've talked about what's it mean for us over the next 2 years to make these commitments. What are the things we're going to have to hold back on, and what are the things we're going to do differently? It comes at a cost, and because I don't, and most of you don't just have plenty of money to just do whatever you want with it all. So pray, talk with your spouse, talk with your kids, and maybe even consider taking a couple days to fast and really use that fast as a time where you're not eating and where you're dealing with hunger pains, and it's driving you to pray and to ask the Lord, what do you want from us? You know, as you're listening to us talk through these commitments, maybe you're thinking that this is for everybody else. Maybe you're thinking you can't make a commitment. I want you to know this is for you. You're an important part of this church, and as a church family, we want to be in this together. We want to be unified, moving forward, that God would work in our lives together. You have a part to play. On Commitment Sunday, November 17th, we want you to have a commitment, whatever God's laid on your heart, to bring it forward with the rest of your church family, and to be all in regards to your finances. We also want you to be all in regards to how you're living your life. And we look at Abraham and the way that he followed God. He didn't do it perfectly, but he followed God, and God blessed him and stretched him and grew him and prepared him for the next step. And we believe that God's doing that in your life, in my life, in Stephanie's life, in the life of the church, that He's going to grow us and prepare us for the next step, for the next phase of ministry, the next thing that He wants us to do. And so to do that well and effectively, we want to all be doing it together. So this is for you, it's for me, it's for all of us. So be praying, be talking, be fasting, be filling out this card, and be ready to bring it, turn it in on November 17th. Thanks, Village Bible Church.